Welcome to the Diversity Pivot Podcast. I'm your host, Julie Kratz. I am thrilled you are here with us today. Our purpose is to share stories, ideas, and tools to help you on your diversity, equity, and inclusion journey. Let's meet this week's guest. Welcome back, listeners. We have a return guest this episode. Chéla Gage is back with us. If you remember, last season she talked with us about her day in the life of the DEI practitioner inside an organization, leading strategic plans around DEI. She is back. She is at a new organization now, and she's joining us from doing her work at Reformation, which is a fashion organization. And there she's responsible for developing and creating the strategic long-term hiring plan and initiatives to advance diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And she's led talent teams in engineering as she was with us when she last spoke, but also high technology, automotive, globally, and she's committed to a number of nonprofits and joins us today to share insights from her newest endeavor. Welcome back, Chéla.
Hey, Julie. Thank you so much for having me back. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you for the ask.
It's an honor to have you. I remember last time there were just so many juicy nuggets that you shared with us about how to take this high level like strategy into actual action, which I think so many DEI leaders, despite our best efforts and intentions, we just struggle to get kind of that high level to low level granularity. So it's so insightful. And I know you just did that again. So you're even more seasoned now that you're joining us back again. I'd love if you could just do a quick, where were you last time we talked and where are you now? What have you been up to?
Yeah, so a lot has changed. When we chatted before, I was working for Pratt& Whitney, a 40,000 employee organization that created airplane engines. Today, I am Senior Vice President at Reformation. My role is responsible for all of recruiting as well as diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. One of the things about Reformation, there's so many reasons I joined the organization, but one of the things is their focus is on people and planet. We believe at Ref that sustainable clothing and cute clothing can coexist. We believe that the fashion industry has an opportunity to do better for our planet. And so our goal is to be climate positive by 2025 and to be circular by 2030. So there's a lot that goes into that. One of the reasons I joined the organization is to find a company that can focus on a long-term goal like climate change. I figured when DEI gets tough, and we all know there's times where DEI gets tough and our resources get stretched or get removed, I figured an organization that can go through climate change can really hold it when DE&I gets tough. And that has been true. The fashion industry has been through a lot in the last 12 months. And my board and my senior leadership, they are all committed to making sure that the organization is forward and leading when it comes to DEI initiatives.
Oh, that's such a great point. You know, where my mind instantly goes like Patagonia as an example of that. And the distinct tie, we talked about this on the podcast quite a bit, ESG, environmental, social governance, and the link to DEI, because DEI sits within this as the social piece. And if we're focused on ESG overall, then we can't not be focused on DEI, especially when it goes in and out of the news cycle, as you and I know budgets tend to unfortunately correlate with. Such an interesting pivot. So tell us, going from 40,000 employees that are engineers, 900 that are fashion, what's different? Because people love to say their industries are different, and I love to push back. But I think in your situation, you might actually have a point here. Very different pivot you made.
It is a different pivot, and something, my whole background, 20 plus years in HR and DE&I, has been on the technical side, like engineering, high tech, and it's been business to business. At REF, we are a privately funded organization and it's direct to consumer. There are some similarities and there are some extreme differences. The similarities, I think all of us within talent and DE&I see across industries, which is the pipeline for diverse talent. It is not as strong as many of us would like. And so one of the things that I struggled with in engineering, and in engineering, the industries that we worked with were Amazon and Google and all of those competitors, was trying to make sure that we were sourcing from diverse channels, bringing talent to the top of the funnel. In fashion, one of the things also in engineering, whenever I would do data and trying to figure out what the available talent in the US population is available, the labor statistics, everything was going towards the point that by the year of 2030, the US population is going to look extremely different than it does today. And so the demographics of our population are going to change. And how do we as organizations get ready for that change of demographics? Because by the year of 2030, we will have more talent that is two or more races than we will have talent that's the majority Caucasian right now. And so, with that being said, that the pipeline of talent, getting organizations ready to accept diverse talent, that's one that exists across industries. And bringing talent to the top of the funnel, meaning sourcing directly for talent, going to universities, going to diversity in or women in tech or girls who code, making sure that we source from that top funnel. That's the same. Making sure that at REF, I communicate with Fashion Minority Alliance or Blacks in Fashion Council or Creatives Want Change, looking and making sure that we have networks and associations with organizations that bring us diverse talent. I believe that is going to be that's agnostic across industries, and it's going to be what we all will struggle with for the next 10 years.
Yep.
And the differences that I see coming from a 40,000 employee organization going down to 900. Oh, Julie, the resources. I miss, I
Gotta be a
miss
little
the
scrappy,
day
huh?
a little bit, right? Like, and when I was interviewing with Reformation, I remember one of the questions the CEO asked me was basically trying to get to how scrappy are you? Like, can you get your hands dirty? Can you be a hands-on leader? And being a senior vice president in some organizations, you really just build strategy. You don't go to the tactical. But I love that I get to build the strategy. I get to sit at the table. I get to see how my role in diversity impacts the customer. Like when we create belonging at Reformation for our associates, that belonging gets filtered to our customers. Imagine walking into a store, seeing someone that looks like you, be it shape, size, or color, and being like, this is my spot. This is where I go to. These are my people. I like that gives me goosebumps. And that's the reason why I'm here at REF. And I can't wait to continue doing the work that they started now that I've been here for a year.
That's cool. Yeah, the impact you have in the industry, you think about fashion, how you're represented in the media, just to
Yes.
see yourself reflected and feel welcoming in the products and services that you offer. I mean, that can lead to a direct impact. And not every brand can do that. Some brands are not
Right.
household brands, some brands are B2B brands. And so that's a cool part about the B2C work is you can have that direct impact on the consumer.
Yes.
Chéla, you mentioned building the strategy, and I know you've been through this quite a few times. And listeners, I hear from you all often. How do I build a DEI strategy? How do I set goals? How do I measure it? How do I hold people accountable? These are all questions, especially
Yes.
right now in the throes of some serious DEI pushback that a lot of DEI practitioners, consultants, leaders inside organizations are just quite frankly really struggling with. How do we get this
Yes.
work to take root? So I love now that you've been through this a few times and you're in the
Yeah.
weeds now.
Yeah.
What have you learned? Like, what makes a good DEI strategy? How do we actually make this work?
Yeah. It's foundational. I think there are some foundations that every organization needs in order to be successful. And a good DEI practitioner will enter into an organization, figure out where the organization is, and meet them where they are. It's the same as meeting an individual where they are when they join your team and training them up to be the expert or the SME you need them to be. When I came into Reformation, I had already had years of experience of seeing an org struggle to get to success and then seeing what success looks like. So I've had the ability to see the maturity model go from foundational to leading. And one of the things that is consistent, regardless of size of the organization or where the industry is accountability and communication. So how do we build how do we build a strategy that incorporates communication at the C-suite and at the rank and file? How do we build a strategy that is based in data, allowing us to see the impact we make from an organization month over month or quarter over quarter? How do we build accountability at the senior level organization in a way that rank and file see us walking the walk and talking the talk? Because we can build programs, initiatives, we can do everything. If it's not making an impact, if rank and file, our employees don't believe that we are making an impact on their lives, then what we're doing has no value.
Yeah.
So one
Yeah.
of the things I immediately did coming in is just listen. Um, I thought I would do listening tours, but the organization had already done listening tours back in 2020. So I took some of that analysis. I looked at our engagement scores. I looked at hiring manager surveys, candidate surveys, and figured where the organization is on that DEI maturity model, and then input initiatives, programs, accountability in there to help elevate them, getting them to now we are leading in the industry. And one of the foundational things, and I know I read a book, Lily Zhang, They Them, DEI Deconstructed. Oh, I love that book. Like I couldn't
Yeah,
put
it's
it
so
down.
counterintuitive, isn't it? Like DEI training doesn't work. Like, yes, it does. No, it doesn't when it's not this way. Yeah, really good points there, but listeners, it stings a little bit.
It hurts. And if you're a practitioner, you do a little bit of, oh, I do that,
Yeah.
or okay, I might need to change that. Or what I love about the book is it put it all on the table and it lets you pick and choose
Hmm.
from what's going to be right for your org or how can you grow. But one of the things about DEI Deconstructed was really the language that we use to talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And so one of the things I did for both Pratt and Whitney and Reformation was build that foundational language. Here's the business case for DEI. I know some of us don't like to make it, but it exists.
This is why we're doing this, and this is why it's non-negotiable. We are doing this, and it makes sense to this side.
Yes,
Yes.
and the business case is so different. So Julie and you and I talked about this at a different time. But when I went into Pratt and Whitney, an organization that has the majority is white men, when I put data in front of them, it was, oh, okay, I see it. So instead of saying um, 12% of your population or 10% of your senior leadership population are people of color, I was able to say 90% of your population, your senior leadership population is Caucasian.
Hmm.
And when you say it that way, there's this, oh, ouch, this, okay, what do we need to do? What are we looking at? What's the available talent in the market? When I come to them and say, the available talent in the market is that 35% of the population should be people of color. and you don't look like the outside, then it was okay, what do we need to do? But when you're talking to white women and people of color have similar relevant work related trauma, and bringing that relevance together, it allows us to go faster together. And the messaging is different. It is okay, we have as white women tried A, B, C, D, but we're not matching or we're not getting to our people of color. What is that?
Mm-hmm.
Then you can go in and you can say, here's the pipeline that we're not looking at. Here's the messaging that needs to be different. Here's the belonging that needs to change. And so, meeting an organization where it is, I couldn't go in with the data. One, at 900, being a startup organization with 900 employees, our data isn't as deep as it was when I had the Raytheon data. But I was able to say, if we benchmark ourselves year over year, we see that we have made incremental progress. Now let's hold ourselves accountable to that progress, and let's build some goals based on what we've done in the past. I see that we can increase representation by, let's say, 1% by doing A, B, C, D
I love
and
that.
adding A, B, C, D. Yes. But in addition to, not only did we benchmark ourselves, but my CEO wanted to hold our senior leadership accountable. And so building DE&I, and it took, when I was at my former, it took us years to get to this point. But my CEO at Ref said, let's make sure that DEI is a measure of success for senior leadership bonus. When you start talking to people about
When
their
it gets
money,
real.
I love that. One of the things that we also did, and I took this from my previous work, is we created a DEIB certificate. And that certificate is 3 levels of classes that include inclusive leadership, anti-racism, inclusive performance management, and allyship. In order for a leader in order for an individual contributor to become a leader, they have to have a DEIB certificate. And in order for that leader to be promoted to next level, they have to have their DEIB certificate. So right now, we just launched it May 24th. Our leaders have had their first training. We're moving into trainings 2 through 4, and that should be complete by the end of the year. That accountability, making sure that we all understand foundationally where we're going and building accountability into their performance and into their bonus, like that's how you really start moving the needle for individuals.
Yeah, it's individuals and systems. So I love what you pointed out, and Lily would agree with this. Shout out to the
Yes.
DI Deconstructed Work listeners. It's really helpful because one of the questions she asked that I think frames exactly what you just said is like, what are the outcomes we're trying to
Yes.
accomplish here? Like, what does success look like? And so when you start
Yes.
on your DEI journey, like that should be the guiding question. What does good look like? What are we trying to change? Where's point A and what's point B? So like you said, even if you don't have
Yes.
robust data, get a baseline, get a point A, figure out some
Yes.
incremental goals for point B. And goals, this is where I really struggle with my favorite clients. They confuse goals with initiatives. So we're going to do this training. And I'm like, but that's not a goal. Like, yes, you can
That's not
say
a
when it's
goal.
done, but that's an initiative, which is a
That's an
short-term endeavor. A
initiative.
goal is like something we're actually going to measure. So do you have a
Right.
measurement? And representation and activities are fine. I mean, using a representation example, certainly how we hire, can we increase the diversity of our hiring slates, of our promotion slates? Those types of things are systemic and measurable. So ideally, when you set
Yes.
goals, it should be based on disrupting systems that support the status quo. And like you said, 2030 is not that far away, people. The runway will run
Right.
out. Do it now. Do it now. And then
Yes.
also make it really measurable and hold people accountable. Like your certificate program is a great example of that. Like this is a part of being a leader here. You have to do A, B, and C.
Yes.
So all that
Yes.
wrapped together, just so well said. I wonder, Chéla, if you had challenges, or you see challenges, we're in a bit of turmoil in the industry right now for leaders that might be wrestling with what's next. Is this work going to continue? Yes, it will. But like advice, things you do either for self-care or just, that help keep you grounded in this work, even when it feels so frustratingly slow, I would say. I think you and I know it could be much more quickly, but we're constantly being like pulled back.
Yeah, there's this jerking feeling, right? Like you take 2 steps forward and 1 step back.
Love it.
I'm
gonna channel your voice when I can't sleep at night now. Like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It does. It feels like, oh, I thought we got somewhere. Oh, no, gotta go backwards again. Like, why?
Yeah, but there's, one of the things that I do, Julie, is I connect with leaders like you. One of the things I'll say that helped me when I first joined REF was really reaching out to other DE&I leaders to say, hey, here's my struggle. What have you seen work? What have you done? Or, hey, one of the things that I struggle with as a Black female is making sure that my lived experience doesn't saturate what I'm trying to do for the organization. And I have to make sure that the organization hears what we're doing in different modalities. So sometimes it could be better for me to conduct the training, or I may bring in someone like you, Julie, someone who has DEI expertise. Sometimes it's good to bring that external validation in as a DE&I practitioner. It's one less thing I have to do.
But then they're hearing it from different people, and it's like, oh, it's not just Chéla, because you run into that whole like, it's just your job mentality, especially in smaller organizations where you're wearing a lot of the hats.
Yes, 100%. And so I love bringing in other DEI consultants or experts. So that's one thing that I do when it gets challenging. The other, I guess this goes along with it, is I talk to the organization. I hold DE&I office hours once a month. And I got this from my sister, who used to be a professor in New Jersey. She would always say, if they just paid attention to my office hours, we could get so much done. And so when I created DE&I office hours, it allows me to hear directly from individuals what their challenges are and what feedback they're getting from their managers, or what trainings could their managers benefit from, or what workshops do we need to give, or what initiatives have we went forward with that maybe didn't land as well as we thought they did. And so having that direct interaction with my rank and file population allows me to see if the strategy that we are creating and what we're measuring is really making an impact. For me, it's validating because I get the thumbs up that we're going in the right way, or it allows me to tweak and be iterative in the moment. And that's something that I personally need.
Yeah, connection, community, to know you're not in it alone, to rely on, be able to fall on to others for support and guidance. Of all the things that I'm doing right now, that has been the most impactful for me is connecting with other DEI folks, and just it's a little bit of commiserating. It's a little bit of problem solving. It's a little bit of, best practice sharing. But at the end, we're like, you're not alone. There's other people that care about this. There's a lot more of us than there are of the naysayers too. It's just like when you shared that stat about 2030, I was like, I bet that just scares the pants off of people that are scared about DEI. That is what's causing this, because the runway, you got 7 years, people, like, this is the world that we're going to be in. So you want to be a part of it or not. And so people with power just holding on, like clamping on, like for the last grip. And it's like,
sorry. It's coming undone.
Sorry.
It's coming undone.
It is. And we still have a lot of work to do to equip workplaces to be able to handle those changing demographics. But it feels ominous. It feels like we are at an unprecedented time of turmoil, of conflict, when we need a plan. Like you said, we need something that we can stick to because this is it's always going to be a long-term thing. These things will not be resolved in our lifetimes, unfortunately. But if we have a plan, we can stick to it even when times are hard. But I've gotten this question too much recently, like, what do I do with the people that feel like this is against their religious and political beliefs? And it's like, okay, you can keep your beliefs, right?
You
At this
can.
company, we value respect and inclusion. So that is a non-negotiable. So you can respect the
Right.
fact that people have different beliefs, and you do too. We're not imparting
Yes.
beliefs on anyone. We're not telling you how to think. This is more just about appreciating differences and valuing people as their full human selves. So if you can't get behind that, then
Right.
I can't help you. That's what I want to say.
Right. And Julie, organizations don't do that last part. They don't communicate. If you can't buy into this, then I can't help you. I remember when maybe it was 3 years ago, Boeing went through turmoil like most organizations did in 2020. But it got out that I think maybe about, let's just say, 20 or so of their leaders were not showing the values that the organization wanted. And they let those 20 leaders go. And they said the reason they let them go was because they did not adhere to the DEI values that they held to, that the organization held to. And that's when, like, my ERGs at the time, they were like, see, if Boeing could do it, why can't we do it? And
Oh,
that's key. When you start your strategy, when you start doing the work, you have to communicate what you're doing. Otherwise, because there's a thousand little things that make progress in DE&I, and the organization needs to hear what those things are.
yep.
And they need to hear when you do it right, and they need to hear when you do it wrong.
Yep. Yep. Ah, summed it up in a nice bow. I love it. Communication, communication. And people need to hear like the same message so
Yes.
many times. What is DEI? And I know that's painful. Explain what it is so people don't invent what it isn't. Fill in the
Right.
gaps with their own not weird. Sorry, that sounded judgmental. Their own understanding that comes from a place of uneducation. And then why does it matter? Right? The business case, the
Yes.
human case, like we are doing this. This is an expectation. Hold people accountable to that and have your senior leadership
Yes.
engaged. It just seems
Yes.
so common sense from somebody that's watching, but it's all too often, like you said, companies don't hold that line for people. Hold the
Yes.
line, set the
Yeah.
expectation, communicate why it's important, do a
Yeah.
slow drip on what it means, how to show up, and then be willing.
Yeah.
If you turn some people that are like, I don't want to work at a place that's focused on DEI, then if you're against inclusion and you want exclusion, like, see you later. I mean, we should be okay
Yeah.
with that. There's plenty of non-inclusive places for you to work. That
100%.
majority
A
of people
hundred
do
percent.
want it, and they don't want someone disrupting that. So let's make sure that
Right.
people are aligned with the culture we're creating here. But easier said than
Yep.
done.
Yep. Yep. A lot easier said than done. I love refs because in fashion can be exclusive. But at ref, because every brand wants you to only focus on them. But ref is really focused on being inclusive, from our supply chain to the way that we hire to the way that we promote. And when you have an organization whose values just run straight through every process, that's what makes life
It's
easy
like
as a
threading a
DEI
needle. It's just
practitioner. Thread
everywhere.
the
It
needle.
doesn't, you don't have to do ad hoc and invent things and reinvent new processes every time. It's just how we do things. So much easier. What a
Yep.
treasure trove of knowledge you are, Chéla. I'm so happy you came back for a revisit episode and we get to hear kind of a before and an after and your new journey that you're
Thank
on.
you.
How cool it
Thank you.
is to get to shape fashion where people, like you said, of all body types, sizes,
Yeah.
races, ethnicities feel included and they feel
Yeah.
a sense of belonging in the very clothes. I mean, you think about clothing
Yes.
that we put on, we should
We
feel
all.
authentic in the clothing that
Yeah.
we wear. It's part of
Yeah.
appearance. So
Right.
profound when you think
Right.
about it and the impact we can all make. So, I know you've shared before, but if listeners want to get in touch with you, ask you questions,
Oh,
good place to find you.
yes. I am on LinkedIn. I can be found on LinkedIn. Chéla Gage on LinkedIn. And then on Twitter and Instagram, it's tweet at Che.
Oh, cool. Well, we'll link to those in the show notes. And it's Chéla,
Thank you.
Chelagage, listeners. If you're looking for a name, you can easily Google her and find
Thank
her and follow
you.
her work. Awesome, Chéla. Thanks
Thank
so much for
you.
being with us today.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you liked what you heard, consider hiring Julie and the Next Pivot Point team to come speak at your organization's next event. We speak on a range of topics from active allyship to inclusive leadership to how to create a culture where everyone feels seen, heard, and feels a sense of belonging. Thank you for being on this journey with us. Go to nextpivotpoint.com to learn more.